And every person who is a great storyteller is kind of winning in life because you engage people, you really connect with people, you get your points coming, and you kind of switch up the mood. We're going to come back to that a bit later, but it is a superpower to be a great storyteller, so it is extremely important to practice this.
She only raised $220, and her goal was $300. And then she told her mom that she was really upset that she not did reach her goal, but that she will try harder next year so she can reach her goal then. The purity of the heart of a 9-year-old girl who consider other more important than herself.
The key of storytelling is to tell the story while reliving it as it's happening right now. So we're not supposed to just retell it as journalists do, because that gets kind of boring to listen to. But when you relive the story, you feel those emotions. You go through it as it happens now.
Hello, we have no time to lose. Let's get started. Today's episode is about how to become a great storyteller. Ever meet someone who could tell a story so well you forgot to blink? That's not luck, it's a skill. In this episode, we're diving into the art of storytelling. How to hook your listeners, paint vivid scenes, and leave people hanging on every word. Whenever you're telling your life story or just explaining what happened at the grocery store. This is how you make it unforgettable. Let's turn your voice into pure magic storytelling. Today, I would like to start with a strong, sad story. And it is a story from Scott Harrison. He is the founder of Charity Water. And Charity Water is a non-profit organization bringing clean and safe water to people all around the world. And the story happens around 2012. And it's about how Charity Water came up with the idea of donating birthdays. Scott and his team stumbled upon the idea of asking people to donate their birthday. Because you often get a lot of crap and shit you do not need for your birthday. And people spend a lot of money on their birthday. In 2012, it was 660 million people who don't have clear water. And Scott and his team did think, what if we can start a movement of birthdays? Instead of asking for gift or you throw a big party for yourself, you could turn birthday into giving moments. Your friends and your family will give your age in dollar. And Scott was in a church in Seattle. The church had thrown a big cake party for Scott's organization. And it was a young hipster pastor who was behind it, and which they raised $500,000 from the town. Scott went out and thanks the church and did speak on the Sunday at the end of the church meeting. And he asked everyone in the church, it was around 1,000 people over there, if they could skip their birthday and donate the next birthday to Charity Water. And it was an 8-year-old girl in the audience. Her name was Rachel Beckwith. And she did donate her 9th birthday, which was just a few weeks later. She skipped the gift, skipped the party, and asked for $9 from everyone she knew. She only raised $220, and her goal was $300. And then she told her mom that she was really upset that she not did reach her goal, but that she will try harder next year so she can reach her goal then. Scott was in Africa, deep in the jungle at the time. And Rachel, the 9-year-old girl, was killed in a terrible car accident at that time. A tractor trailer had lost control, and she was the only fatality. She was back in the car. Her mom and her sister was in front of the car. She became crushed. And Scott remember landing in New York, turning on his phone, and then he got a text from the pastor and the mom to the lady, and then told him about the tragedy. And they want to reopen the campaign again. They want to give people a chance to honor Rachel's last wish and donate $9. And imagine the story spread through the church community. People start to give $9, and then it spread around Seattle, across the country, across Europe, and down to Africa. African people start to donate $9, hearing about the little girl in Seattle who want people in Africa to have clean water more than whatever birthday gift that she should be expected. And 60,000 complete strangers gave $9 or more. And after Rachel passing, it winds up and goes from $220 that she saw to $1.3 million, impacting over 35,000 people's life. Scott and his wife took Rachel's family, her mother and her grandfathers and the pastor, on the 1-year anniversary of her death to Ethiopia, to village to see all the people who actually got clean water. So many people who donate to Rachel campaign become so inspired that they did donate their own birthdays. They have now raised over $2 million. So Rachel campaign went from $220 to have now raised over $3 million. And that have actually impacted over 100,000 lives. So from 8 people with clean water to 100,000 lives. That's the power of the story, which again speaks to Walu. Walu of it being the purity of the heart of a 9-year-old girl to consider other more important than herself. And this is even hard for many adults and to see and understand. Scott say, why are kids drinking from swamp if I can do something about it with my birthday? Great question from Scott, and so strong and sad story, but also a great message.
Very, very powerful. And this is a story we need to hear. This is a story we need to retell to our friends and bring along with us, because this little girl for sure has impacted so much in this world. And what a pure heart, as you said. This was amazing.
Yeah, amazing. So young, only 9 years old, and every children is so excited about their birthday, but she actually don't need anything, just want to help the poor people, and it was amazing to hear. And she did a lot for the people who need it.
Yeah, that is for sure. And it is an incredible human quality that this girl had, to not only think about herself as you can on your birthday, you can wish for things, but she thought more about everyone else. So that was amazing, really heartwarming.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was going through my pictures the other day, because now it is 1 year ago since I was in Thailand and fighting my first fights. And it comes up as a memory on the Snapchat. So the other day it came up a picture of my first fight at Bangla. And I thought to myself, I can remember this entire day as if it was yesterday, because every single part of it has just truly stick to my mind. And I really loved every single part of this day. So I kind of want to take you back to it and go through it together with you. Because it was my very, very first Muay Thai fight. I had had a few MMA fights from before, but I've never fought Muay Thai other than sparring or sparring sessions or training camps like that. So I was extremely nervous, and I was fighting a Thai girl. So I thought that she had been doing this her entire life, and I was extremely nervous. But as the fight day came, I'm waking up and I'm just feeling so calm, so ready. I go and braid my hair, I make those battle braids, I go to the gym, get that massage, shadow box, and really prepare for it. And as I sit down and talk to my mental coach on FaceTime, I'm going through the fight in my mind, visualizing every single part of it. And Mike Swick comes over to me and he says something that I will never forget. And he says that throughout his career, most of all, he remembers the highlights, You don't remember all of those camps, all of those hard sessions. You just do them and it happens. But you remember the highlights. So he told me, go out there and create highlights. Those are the ones you look back at. And that is for sure something I look back at now. The highlights in the fights and also the highlights outside the ring as well. So I remember something that's most unique about this is the calmness that I was having. The anticipation was so huge, but at the same time, I was so calm. So I'm sitting in the bus on the way to Bangla. And as we walk out there, everything is so different from what I had been through before. And earlier, I have always wanted to be in the arena, to look at it and kind of visualize how every part of it looks. But now I hadn't done anything like that. So everything was completely new. And as I go out from the bus, I enter the arena. Still, everything feels so okay. I go into that locker room, or I don't know what to call it, because we were all in there. My opponent, her team, all the other fighters, their team, like, I don't know, 30 people, 40 people maybe together in a very small room. And it's all open air. So that it kind of smells like traffic and sweat, and it's very humid because it's in Thailand, you know. And that oil, the famous Muay Thai oil that all the fighters are using before the fight. And I remember just closing my eyes and really just hearing the screams and smelling that Thai oil. And I think that is something that has sticked most to me. And of course, the national anthem comes on. They sing the royal song for the king every time before we fight, and it's so majestic, you know. I get goosebumps just by thinking about it, because the arena is like shouting and screaming, but when that song comes on, it's completely quiet. It gets dark, everyone stands up, and everyone is completely respectful and quiet. So that is for sure one of the highlights. And then I remember just, I'm standing there and kind of battling the calmness, the nervous feelings, the extreme excitement, all in once. And then I just go. I just enter the ring. I just trust the process. And I feel so extremely calm. So I really look back at this with so much joy, because this is how I want to fight, you know, this calmness, and still having those kind of emotions knocking on the door, but just mastering that calmness. But the point of this story is that the key of storytelling is to tell the story while reliving it as it's happening right now. So we're not supposed to just retell it as journalists do, because that gets kind of boring to listen to. But when you relive the story, you feel those emotions, you go through it as it happens now. It's a lot easier for the people that listen to you to follow up on your story, or to be a part of your story, to kind of feel it, go through it together with you. So another key factor to telling a story is that one of the most important things is dialogue. The dialogue you have with the people that are listening to you, that is what brings life to the story. So I'm often thinking about it as if I'm just having a monologue, I'm just talking, and I don't really care about the receiving part. It's hard to have that engagement. But when we really go in for the dialogue, we want to engage the listening part, the receiving part. That's when the connection is made, and that's when they are able to be welcomed into your story and live it together with you. And it's important to think about that the basic story ingredients are who, what, where, and when.
And tell story first, then you build report. Get people engaged, and then you build this chemistry. Then the listener will have a report with me, and you will feel more relaxed and more creative. Then I link the story to what I will talk about. For example, I come with the 3 tips about being more real.
65% of all conversation is about stories and gossip. we often say to each other that he did this or she did that, or we talk about what happened yesterday. But humans love stories. That's why we watch movies, read books, and listen to podcasts. And I remember some of my favorite memories as a child growing up was that my mother used to tell stories to us right before we went to sleep. And the stories that she told, I can still remember some of them because it was so vivid. She's a great storyteller. And of course, it was a great connection with my favorite person in the world. She took the time to tuck us into bed and tell us a story, a very nice story that we could fall asleep to. So, of course, the connection and the quality time and the stories itself is something that has stuck so much to me as great memories.
Absolutely. And great stories, they need a hook, and you need the struggle, the breakthrough, and the big takeaway from the stories.
That is a good point. And we have 5 different types of storytellers. One is those who persuade. This evokes emotions and it richens your conversations. And the other one are those who inspire. This can be like leader or coaches. And when I think back at it, there has been so many times we've been sitting at the mat after sparring or after training sessions, and our coach has told a story about his fight camp or his fight or when his opponent did this. And I honestly think that I remember all of them, if not most of them, because it's something about the dialogue. You are extremely inspired by your coach. You've just had a session, you're training to a fight, and then comes the connection, then comes the story. So this is something that has really enriched me. And a third type of storytellers are those who launch revolutions and movements. And do you know about any more, Joakim?
Let me think. Those who tap into your potential, someone who make you feel like they speak direct to you, they hit you in the heart. You feel like you can achieve anything now after you have listened today. They tap into your potential. And those who manipulate, those we call the con artist. And
Right.
Something I just think about, some great storytellers. That's Shakespeare, Martin Luther King, Lincoln, Eminem, Winston Churchill, Andrew Tate, Joe Rogan, Theo Von, and Dana White. All of those is great storyteller. But we have a good storyteller. That's Annika Hugelberg. She is a good one. She here today when she tells story, she relive the story. She take your listeners and me also together inside the story. She use high energy. She have a lot of emotion, and she relive the story as we feel that we are in the story together with she. So Annika is a very good storyteller, and in the future, I believe she will become an exceptional, great storyteller.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I have to say that I love to talk and I love to tell stories and I love to write. And my favorite part about school throughout all of those years was writing short stories, which is a type of story where you describe a lot. You use emotion, you create feelings in the reader or the listener. So that is something I really love, because being able to tell stories is a very important quality. As well as we learned in the earlier episode about communication, is all about connection, which is very important to me. And that brings me along to the next point, because telling a story is a great way to get your point across. And someone can win a debate if they're good at telling stories. And every person who is a great storyteller is kind of winning in life, because you engage people, you really connect with people, you get your points coming, and you kind of switch up the mood. We're going to come back to that a bit later. But it is a superpower to be a great storyteller, so it is extremely important to practice this. Whatever your goal is, it is important to know about this. And you see, the great who are winning in life are very often great storytellers. So I want to ask you, all of you, What are you gonna do today to improve your storytelling skills?
And here is element of a great storyteller. You have to create anticipation. Oh, whoa, what is going to happen here? Have to get you excited. And number 2, you have to build curiosity and surprise. For example, if I told a story to my daughter, this was many years ago, yeah, and now she's grown up, yeah. So if I tell you this way, she think I'm a weirdo, yeah. So this was when she was young, yeah. So when my daughter was young, 2-3 years, if I will tell a story like this to she, hello daughter, what's up? It was a night I went out in the forest, and it started to become a little bit dark, and I went inside the forest, a lot of tree around me, and then suddenly I hear a noise, and I hear another noise, and then it was like a tree was broken in 2 pieces, and I stop up a little bit, and then I went a little bit back, I look around, I didn't see anything, and then I take a few steps in front, and then I suddenly see something like this. Then I built up the curiosity and surprise, because I have to tell it in a engaging way, so she gonna become excited, yeah, and want to listen more. And then, and number 3, you have the details. Where I was, how the place looked like. I was sitting in a car together with my daughter. She was sitting in the front right seat. My sister sat behind me. We were outside the McDonald's. We were inside the drive-thru and waiting for our burger. It was lots of car around us. Across the street was a big shopping center. And it was so hot inside my car. My daughter and my sister, they talk about X and Y and Z. So stories are about the details. Tell your story like I am with you.
And when you paint those pictures, I feel like I'm with you. It is very vivid. I can see it very lively.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. Have to tell the story like people are with you, and I feel I get engaged, and I have a little bit emotion and feeling and like this, and then it's real, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And what you also do, which is the next point I wanted to talk about, is the ebbs and flows of your speech. You vary your volume. When you talk about the forest, you're very calm and quiet because the anticipation is building up. But when you're a bit more enthusiastic, when the story moves on to when you and your sister and your daughter were in town, you speak a bit more quickly because the enthusiasm is at another level. So you vary it in a very good way. And this is important. You have to know when to go up and when to go down. Another thing you can do is to use different voices when you tell stories. For example, to use the voice of a child or an old woman or a scared woman when you play these kind of roles. And then number 5 is involvement. Extremely important. Great storytellers get me engaged, and I am in there together with them when they tell their story. So when I listen to it, I catch myself being very involved. So I'll go like, oh no, oh yeah, right. Like I kind of talk to myself and follow the story step by step. And I have to give a huge shout out to Øystein Winstad. He was a guest in our podcast a while back. The first guest that we had, wasn't he?
That's right.
Yeah. And he, before that, a few weeks before that, he had a course for us over 2 days about storytelling and other skills that we learned from him as a journalist that we are using in our podcast. So he told us one story to kind of paint the picture. And I remember it. I felt like I was in Iceland just because of him, because he told the story so great when he was young and being in Iceland. And there was a situation and he was scared and he was building it up so well. I kind of feel like I have been in Iceland because of his great ability to catch my attention. So a huge shout out to him for teaching us this. And that is for sure something I'll try to bring along and learn from.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great storyteller, as Minsta, and told it in a very engaging way. And we was sitting and think, okay, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? Yeah. So hold our listeners, yeah, engaged all the time and curious also.
That is true. And I remember he said that you can tell a story in many ways. You can say, yes, I was in Iceland and there were many horses coming towards me, they were running to me, but it was fine. Or you can go back and you can be like, so I'm standing there, I'm a little boy, many horses, 100 horses come running towards me and the ground is shaking. And like, you can tell your story in different ways. But if he were to tell it in the first way that I explained to you now, I wouldn't even remember it because there was no story to catch your attention. So
Yeah.
you choose how entertaining and how well of a connection you want to build, really.
Yeah. And the first way you explained it, you told it, I just went to Iceland and this happened, this, and then you just retell it like the reporter did, as you mentioned earlier. And that's boring. Then it not take you inside the story. Just retell and come with the fact, this happened. But the second example you show us is actually really, you take his listeners into his story together, and and then it will stick with you.
That is true. A great way.
Mm. Other things to become a great storyteller is energy. You feel a storyteller's energy, and it can be different energy level. And also timing is important. You have to know when you're gonna drop this point and when to drop this fact. Know when to do what. And another one, painting a picture and imagination and visualization. Think about one day if. Use word to tap into your imagination.
That is very powerful. And you have to show feelings. The storyteller has to recreate the feeling when he tells something. Then the audience will feel the same feeling. So by creating the emotions, you welcome the listener to go into that same room of emotions, to feel what you felt. So if you were upset, show that you were upset. And if you were joyful, show joy, show enthusiasm. And this goes back to what we have been talking about earlier about body language. You cannot stand like this and say that you were so sad because like this, now I just seemed a bit crazy. But then you have to kind of like really go into your body language and show that this was rough. You were sad, talk in a lower voice, and your body language is more like shrinked in. You know, this is extremely important because that's when the connection, the communication is so well. And the same goes with if you're angry, if you're curious, afraid, or insecure, show it so that people can adapt into those feelings as well. We know that emotions are contagious. And this also goes for when you're holding a lecture or you tell a story. Your energy is contagious towards other people. So how do you want them to feel?
And then you have the body language, hand movement, and etc. This will become natural when we start to use it. And then the last one, climax. The lesson given. Whoa, what an amazing story. A great story is one that is retold. It is your story. That's what makes the story so unique. Be passionate about your own story. Tell a lot of stories and make impact on people and also on the world.
And what you say makes me thinking that when the climax comes, the lesson given, you want people to feel like, wow, that was amazing. That also goes back to the thing I said about the energy is so contagious. So you choose different stories for different kind of situations. So the story that you started with, it was very sad. It was very powerful. But how it all ended, the impact of this little girl, how she inspires us today, so many years after, and how her actions really made an impact on the world. These things are so important. So what we take away from this story is the powerful meaning of it. So it is important to reflect upon what kind of emotions do you have and what is the point of this? Where do you choose to tell a story? Because there are some sort of situations where stories are more effective to be told. And one can be in a moment of tension. This can be, for example, in a very tough board meeting or a tough family talk. A good story can be effective here. Also, when nothing else works, tell a story. Or to validate your point, tell a story. Then you go deeper into the connection with people. When you're going to sell something, or as we were talking about earlier, for coaches or leaders, it is very efficient to tell stories. And as Joakim was talking about earlier, when you raise children, this is a great way to teach them a point, but also they will remember the story. And then many years after, maybe they will even retell the story.
And then I have another story. And this one is actually from Scott Harrison, the same person I started this podcast with, the founder of Charity Water. And he is an extreme good storyteller. He travels around and tells stories who inspire and people get affected about, so he can raise money to this charity. And it's a great way, and he do it. I learn a lot listening to his story. Scott Harrison and a group of a few donors was sitting in Ethiopia. He was sleeping at a $5 a night hotel room. And he was sitting in the kitchen of this hotel with a few donors. And then the hotel owner come and recognize Scott, because he knows Scott have done a lot of good work in the region for give people fresh and safe water. And then the owner sit down together with the owner of this hotel, sit down and start to tell a story about a woman who lived in his village. It was a remote area, and they have 3,000 people. And all the woman walks for water 8 hours a day. And he did tell about a woman who named Letuk Eris. And when she come back and she was almost home, she slips and falls and break her clay pot. And she spill all the water out in the dust. Then she went and hung herself. She did never go back for water anymore. Someone found the body swinging from a tree in her village. And the owner of this hotel said, "The work you are doing is so important. Keep it up." And then he disappeared back to the kitchen again. And Scott and the donors, they start doubting the story. Is this really a true story? She tied a rope around her neck and did not want to live anymore. And then Scott asked one of his partner if they can check out and try to find out if this story was real or not. And Scott went back to America. And a week later, Scott received an email from one of his donors, and they did find the girl's parents. And sadly, this was a true story. He said, "I did see her grave and I meet her family." And then Scott told his wife that he would like to live in this village for a week. Scott went and lived there for a week. He met the priest for her funeral. He did saw the grave, meet mothers and the friends that walked with she that day. And he did see the tree. He did not know before entering the village that this woman was only 13 years old. And that was a huge shock for him. He was expecting an old lady that has walked for water all her life, imagining a hudshed 60-year-old lady. Her friend said she had been overcome with shame because she broke the clay pot and spilled the water. And Scott say, something has to be done where 13-year-old girls are not hanging themselves on tree because they didn't have water and because they broke the clay pot. Very strong and sad story. She just was only a teen, 13 years old, same age as my daughter. So it was sad to hear the story. So, but it's a great cause Scott Harrison worked for, to give people water, and these great and real stories from real people reached out to so many people, and people will donate. So that's great.
Definitely. Very powerful and very powerful message. It is a world that it's hard to imagine for us, that someone are working so hard for their clean water. We are very lucky to live here in the West, where we have clean water in the tap every single day for free. So it is very important to hear these stories and reflect upon how fortunate we are, and to help out the ones that are not, because it is our responsibility to help out the people that are not in the same position as we are.
Absolutely. Have to reflect about it and not take anything for granted, and be grateful for that. Yeah. We have water, we have food, we have warm house. We are very lucky to stay in this country.
Definitely.
This episode was recorded 8 May 2025. And actually today, it's 80 years since Norway became a free country from the German after the war. So this is a day of freedom in Norway. So happy for that. In the show note, you will find the link to our homepage, the 101percentpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to our free weekly newsletter, donate to our podcast, and all the information about subscription you need. We share for you. Take care, tell your stories in a great way, and give it your best. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend. It is important for us to get out our message so we can help as many people as possible. And we will highly appreciate it if you could take 1 minute of your time to follow us on social media and review the show on Apple Podcast and Spotify. All links are below. Our Instagram is the 101% podcast. Until next time, take care and go 101% into achieving your goals. You owe it to yourself.